Francisco de la Cruz Valley Springs. Not being familiar with the selection process and all of the things that you all are going to ask, one of the things that I would inquire about is to what degree you can ask some questions that address some of the concerns that the public raised to the previous group of you with regards to the Prop 218 and the ongoing rate increases and all of those. It would be helpful to understand the level of understanding that the candidates have of the current conditions and the current situations that we're facing, as well as what is coming down the pipe. Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, is there public comment regarding this? Because I know this is a board decision.
It's a
But
board
what-
decision, but
Yeah, but
they get comment
so,
because anything you guys.
okay, I want to know the organizationally, we're going to ask 4 or 5 questions and maybe a follow-up or 2. And then would it open up to the public comment, or can the public interrupt during the flow of the?
So that is, I mean,
I
that'd
prefer to
that'd
wait.
be up to you,
Okay.
how you want to run the meeting. I would not recommend you.
Well, I'd like to get, just like in the past, what I'd like to do is, we'll ask the 4 questions and get the answers. And if you're part of the public and you have a question, at that time, make a note for yourself. And then after the board is finished with our comments and follow-ups, then, we'll ask the public to comment, if that works for everybody. Hopefully it does. Is that all right with the board? Yes.
That sounds good.
Okay. All right, is there any other public comment? Anybody online? Okay, we will move on to new business 3A, board candidate interviews for appointment of the board seated Division 3. As we all know, Bertha has left us in the lurch. But, and she's irreplaceable without question. But we do have 4 candidates here. And we have a list of 4 questions that we're going to ask each candidate. And then there may be a little follow-up. And then after that, we will have the public comment, and then we'll go through all 4 candidates. And at that point, there's an opportunity for a motion to be made. The decision may not be made today. We'll see. But if there is a majority of the 4 of us, so 3 votes for any one candidate, then it can happen today. But there is a chance we might push this out until the end of May for when our other board member gets back. And we'll see what happens here today. So anyway, do we have to wait till the time frame, or is it? If there is a listed time.
Are all the candidates here?
I don't think so.
No, that's not on the agenda. That's a suggestion in the
Okay,
packet.
it's just
Yeah.
our cheat sheet. Okay, well, I'm going to take them in the order that we listed them here, which is Bruce Miller at 1:15, Stacy Walker at 1:30, Jeffrey Robinson at 1:45, and then Andrew Hirams. We'll have to see if I know how to say that, around 2. And we're just going to go in order if everybody's here and ready. Is everybody here and ready? So our first interviewee would be Bruce Miller.
And are the other candidates going to leave the room or they're
No.
staying here?
I don't know. Is that part of the deal?
Yeah,
That
that's fair.
you can, so just to be clear, we can ask that. You cannot require that. This is a public meeting.
It's really it's up to you all if you want. I mean, it's.
All righty then.
And just in the.
There you go. I like that, especially being first, you know.
Go ahead and step up over there and introduce yourself.
Turn the microphone. There you go.
Hi, I'm Bruce Miller. I live in Murphy's. I currently serve on the MSD.
All right, Bruce. Well, thank you for your interest in the board.
One other clarifying thing, I did ask President Davidson if he would be the one, we have one person asking all 4 questions instead of, we've done it in the past where we've rotated it around, so all 4 questions will be coming from Director Davidson.
Thank you for the introduction.
You're welcome.
Okay,
This is Director Davidson.
President Davidson. Oh, the end. Okay, here we go. First question, pretty simple. What motivated you to apply for this position?
I have some time on my hands. I'm approaching retirement. I would like to participate in public service. I serve on a number of boards now. I know what's involved in that process. So I know what I'm getting into here. And this just seems like a good application of my time.
Okay. All right. This question is kind of interesting, but why are you the best candidate for the position? I mean, not knowing who applied, I mean, that's kind of hard to answer, but please speak to your relevant experience, understanding of CCWD and its District 3 and anything else the board should consider in making its decision.
Sure. So I looked at the other letters of interest. I believe I'm the only applicant with applicable board service. I serve on the MSD board. I was on the T-Stan IRWM board while our district was still funding that level of participation. I serve on the Murphy's Volunteer Library Board. I'm an alternate on CCOG and the CTA. I have quite a bit of relevant county board experience. I have been following your meetings here. We're currently going through a rate study at MSD, so I understand the pain that you've recently gone through. I have backgrounds in finance and running businesses. I've got a math and engineering degree. So I understand some of the technical aspects and financial aspects of what the board does. I think I'm a highly qualified candidate for the position.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, number 3, what do you believe are the most important issues currently facing the district and how would you work to address them if appointed to the board?
Well, I think ratepayers believe that finances are the current biggest issue. That's a really hard question, as everybody knows. Reining in spending to the degree possible. I think, the board serves a lot of masters, regulators and bankers and financiers and employees and keeping the district stable as a whole. But the ratepayers really are the reason we exist and, really are, in my mind, our primary constituents. That might mean some belt tightening, which nobody wants to hear. It's really hard when the board generally interacts more with the employees of the public to ask people to make some sacrifices. But this district does spend more than other districts in the area. It is the district that is referred to when other boards are looking at salaries and benefits for their employees. There's a constant concern that, we're going to lose employees to CCWD unless we increase pay and benefits. So I do think there's a little room for belt tightening here, which nobody wants to hear. But mostly it's just being the best steward of the dollars that you possibly can, looking for the lowest financing opportunities, the best places to spend money, the best time to spend money. And that might mean deferring things, it might mean front loading things. That really comes down to a case by case basis, but I think finances are clearly the district's biggest issue right now.
All right. Okay, number 4, what is your view of the role and responsibilities of a successful public agency board member?
Listening is the primary one. Participation, not getting stuck on an idea and refusing to cooperate with the other board members or the public or your employees about whatever it is we're debating. I think it's being attentive to all parties and doing your research, coming prepared. I've served on some boards where some people are basically placeholders, and that benefits nobody, and that's not my intention here.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any follow-up?
Would there be any conflicts that he would have with being on other boards?
I don't believe that Murphy Sanitary would be, I don't know what other boards you're on, but I don't believe Murphy Sanitary would create a incompatible office. Because
It might be a case by case.
yeah, he may have to
Yeah.
step down at certain times, but as far as two incompatible offices, as the government code defines it, because we don't have any authority, this board or that board doesn't have any authority over the other. I don't believe it creates that, but there could be potential conflicts when we consider things that he may have to recuse himself from. We'd have to take that on a case by case.
Anybody else?
Bruce, you mentioned, or Mr. Miller, you mentioned that one of the difficulties faced by other boards is that they are fearful that they will lose employees to CCWD. Are you aware that we also face that difficulty with when we get compared to other nearby agencies? So you do know that. And you also mentioned something about that, rates are critical. And the hard position that board members get put in when you have to balance belt tightening within the district against failing infrastructure and the barrage of complaints that we get because we have far too many leaks. And so we're trying to fix that. So I just hope that you have an open mind about balancing those issues.
I am aware of this and your particulars. I've been attending the board meetings remotely. I went through your rate study, public outreach meetings. I feel I'm fairly knowledgeable about the position of the district.
Okay.
Scott, do you have anything?
No, I do not.
I trying to read between the lines when it comes to financing is, a big part of your comments here today. And without putting words in your mouth, I seem to think that you believe that we need to pay our employees less.
Well, I'm not sure that's the case. I do think that the employees are well compensated here. There are 7 employees, I believe, with net pay and benefits in excess of $200,000 a year, which to most ratepayers seems like a huge amount. I understand the responsibilities they have. I understand what competitive districts charge. It is a lot of money. It is the only district I know with retiree benefit liabilities.
Funded.
Sure. But that money has to come from somewhere, inevitably. I understand this is a hard ask, right? Everybody asking the ratepayers to sacrifice at a time when the employees are not, is a tough look to the ratepayers. I don't have enough information at this time to say this is what everybody should be getting paid. I do know that the highest paid officials in the county, the people who actually run the county, of which CCWD is just a part of, do not get paid as much as some of the people who actually run the district. It is an area that's worth looking at. In my mind, one of the agreements that people make when they participate in public service or nonprofits is, I'm going to get paid less. And the offset of that, to a large degree, is generally benefits are better. My impression, and again, I don't have enough information to make a full judgment. My impression here is that benefits here are as good as any public service nonprofit position that you could possibly have, and pay is better than the private sector for the area. I'm not saying that I have enough information to know that is inappropriate. I'm saying to the ratepayers that looks difficult, and it is something that I think is worth looking at, particularly as you look forward at future pay and benefit increases.
Yeah, okay.
You are aware that we're not a part of the county.
I understand.
Okay.
Yes, but
No, that's, I got it. Okay.
All right. Is there anything else from the board? Does the public have any comment? Go ahead.
Oh, wait, online.
Mr. Miller, you mentioned that you've been following the board meetings, et cetera. And as you know, a couple of meetings ago, we went over some finances. And we apparently are doing a little bit better than Prop 218 would have us be doing right now. One of the things that we'd like considered is a pause on the next step. How would you respond to a request to review and pause the next step increase that is currently scheduled to take effect, I think, in July, since we're in a significantly better position in terms of inflation, in terms of costs, et cetera, than what we estimated?
Again, any detailed response on a specific fiscal question would need to involve more research than I've done for a district I don't currently participate in. But if the numbers indicate that we can meet our CIP responsibilities without increasing rates, the Prop 218 makes it very clear that the rates that come out of the rate study are simply the maximum amount you can charge. And the rate study formula presumes as a default that there are no grants, loan interest rate reductions, any other outside funding that's going to come in, which seems like an incredibly unlikely scenario over the course of 5 years for an agency that's actively looking to reduce their expenditures. I would, one of the things that I think we can do that costs very little money is look for more grants and funding. That should reduce our liabilities. That should reduce our need to raise rates. And if we don't need to raise rates, we should not.
All right. Any other public questions? Okay, thank you very much. We're all good. All right.
No, thank you.
Okay.
I do have a comment between,
Okay.
Seems like
no,
you-
go,
Thank you,
go
Mr.
ahead.
Miller.
Hey,
Would the board like me to leave while the other people interview, or it doesn't matter?
It's entirely up to you.
You're already
I mean,
I don't think that's important. It's important that they leave so that it's fair to you that they not get a preview and 20 minutes to
Say, yeah.
prepare their answers while they're sitting here.
All right, I'd like to thank the board for their time.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
hi, thanks for your interest. We appreciate it.
The only comment I have is the reason we have 4 questions. I think in any personnel matter, any interview situation, you want to, in interest of fairness, ask the same 4 questions of each candidate and hear the answers to those questions. If we are going to add a 5th question, I think we should be consistent. And now that we've asked 5 questions, I'm happy that you not change. It'd be great if you didn't change your question. But that 5th question should remain the same, I think, through the rest of the candidate pool.
And us asking it or Francisco?
Well, listen, I'm not as strict on that because I think we have different, we're going to have different, these people have different answers. They're going to have different answers. Our follow-ups might be different. I think the structure is still going to be fair, if we, because they have different experience, they have different ideas. Just to limit ourselves to the first candidate, I think is not.
No, just the same 5 questions of every candidate so that we're being fair. And and provide them a fair, an even platform. And instead of asking a different. set
Well,
of
I
questions,
actually,
This is why we have-
I liked Francisco's question. It makes sense. I mean, the board knows the answer to that question. And the answer is, yes, we can do that and we will if it's appropriate. That's why we set the rate structure up the way we did,
Okay,
and
well,
that's up to you.
I'd like to hear the answer to that question and keep them the same if we could.
Okay, well, I don't know that we can tell the public exactly what to say.
I've got a
You can ask.
comment on that. Just hang on a second. Does the public know that we have a pending application process underway to borrow $20 million for infrastructure funding? So,
Does that matter?
well, we do now, but
We're not doing it behind closed doors.
But the point that I'm trying to make is that we That very likely will not be enough, if we do.
We're getting off.
We're kind of off the agenda.
All right.
So,
All right, I'm gonna run it the way I've been running it, and I agree that if you want to have that fifth question, I think it's fairly valid. But I do think the board should have the opportunity to follow up independently with each candidate
Right.
to a small extent. I don't want to go, we're trying to keep it
Follow up on their answers to the questions that were asked.
correct.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, all right. Okay, smooth as I thought it would be. Okay, could you ask Stacy Walker to please come in?
On down.
There seems to be a lot of laughter out there in that hallway. Hi, Stacy. You want to just introduce yourself real quick and then we'll get going on these questions?
So I'm Stacy Walker. I was born in Sonora and raised in Arnold. Moved away a little bit to do some college and came back ultimately because my family's here. I work at Utica Water and Power Authority. I've been there for about 2.5 years now. So I feel like I'm well positioned to kind of understand what CCWD does, even though we don't have a lot of similarities. There are certain things like FERC and DSOD and just being a public agency that I'm familiar with. And I'm looking forward to seeing if I can help out over it.
All right. Okay, well, the first question is, what motivated you to apply for the position?
Well, I live in Arnold and I've been there my whole life. I have a small business up there. We just opened small town collectibles, sports cards and games store. So I have a small business that also relies on CCWD water and sewer. And I'm the clerk at Utica. So I get all these great big ideas from a chair that I can't really do much with them. So the opportunity to have a say is kind of exciting. So that's what brought me here.
Okay, great. Okay, why are you the best candidate for the position? We're assuming that you've reviewed these other applicants. Why are you the best candidate for the position? Please speak to your relevant experience, understanding CCWD and its District 3, and anything else the board should consider in making your decision. You've kind of done a little bit of that, but
So I understand watershed management, working at Utica. I understand the North Fork project a little bit. I know that CCWD owns that project and we just are a beneficiary of it. I also am an attendee of the TSCAN meetings, so I have my finger on the pulse of the different things that the state's bringing down, even though they don't directly relate to what I do at Utica. Monthly, I sit in on those meetings and I get to hear, of grant funding opportunities and the different legislature that's kind of coming through. And I understand the challenge of where we live. I understand that we don't have very many customers. There's only 46,000 people in this county, and there's a lot of space in between every place. So the amount of customers you have versus the infrastructure is a huge challenge. And that's a situation that we deal with at Utica as well. So I feel uniquely positioned to understand that and have sympathy for what your board has gone through with your 218 and having to raise the rates because the infrastructure is expensive. So that's why. And I hope to also be able to be a community advocate. I know that Bertha was a community advocate and everybody loved her. And I'd like to be able to step into a similar role and be able to be there to bridge that gap.
Can you run a bucket truck?
No, but I'm totally willing to learn.
Yeah, okay. All right. Number 3, what do you believe are the most important issues currently facing the district and how would you work to address them if appointed to the board?
So I think your aging infrastructure is one of your bigger problems, because this was built 75 plus years ago. I do also know that you're going through relicensing, and I know that that's a big deal with lots of negotiations and moving parts. And as an outsider looking in, I'm always very curious of how those things are going. And we have been working through an exemption at Utica. We're working to work through a FERC exemption, which I know that your North Fork project wouldn't qualify for, but I do believe Hogan does. So, having that unique perspective to be able to understand those sorts of licensing and relicensing problems, I think makes a little unique difference.
Okay. All right, number 4, what is your view of the role and responsibilities of a successful public agency board member?
A board member's job is to create policy, to review the finances and set the budget, and to direct the general manager based on the mission and the values of the district. So I think collaborative work with other board directors to understand and come to an understanding is huge. I think reading your board packets and really becoming informed before you make decisions is a very huge and important factor of being a successful board member. And really just understanding the people in the community you serve and what matters to them. I think that's the best way.
Okay. All right, does the board have any other, do you want to ask the question that Francisco asked?
I can't do it as nearly as well as he.
Yeah.
Well, let's stick with our program then. Is there any other board, does the board have any follow-up?
Do you participate in the board meetings at UWPA?
No, I am not an active participant. I am just a reporter.
Do you have any?
Well, I'm going to ask our council the same question that Cindy asked about the last, about any conflict of interest. But you agree to be the same?
It would be the similar response, which it's, she doesn't hold she's not an appointed official or an elected official, so it's not an incompatible office. But there likely would be times when she would need to recuse herself when we make
The
decisions.
question is regarding your position with Utica and at CCWD at the same time.
Right, I'm prepared to recuse myself in any conflict of interest or even perceived conflict of interest. I want to make sure everybody knows I'm here for CCWD and not any other.
Russ?
I don't have any questions for Stacy, but I just want to commend you on your enthusiasm and it really kind of lights me up that so many qualified people are coming forward to help us. So
I was excited to see 4 people responded. It really was. I was a little nervous. I thought it'd be a little less competition. I was excited to see that there was so much interest.
thank you. Thank you very much for coming today.
Okay, is there any public questions? You want to try that again? Maybe this time we can remember it and we can say it ourselves. I got the basics of it.
I like him say it.
Stacy, I'm not sure if you viewed the last series of board meetings here. One of them dealt with the finances, current state of affairs. And according to the report out, we're doing a little bit better than estimated on the Prop 218. Our reserves, et cetera, are better than expected. We're considering asking the board to pause the next step up in the current 5-year plan as a result of where we are today. Faced with that decision, how would you respond to pause the next step up?
And before you answer, this is Francisco, and he is a member of the public.
Yes.
You know that,
Yes.
not an employee or
Yeah.
board member or anything. Okay. Yeah, because when he said we were gonna ask for a pause, I wanted to know.
To answer that question, if that was arisen during a board meeting and the community asked for a pause, I would have to defer to staff. We aren't experts at the budget. We're not experts at what goes on every day in the day-to-day operations. So that would be something that I would have to say, General Manager, can you please provide us with options and an understanding of where we are financially and a recommendation for these reserves? And also make sure that what the public wants is known, and then we would be able to make an informed decision later, considering both what the general manager and the community needs.
All right, fantastic. Anybody else? Anything else? Anything from?
I'm good.
Excellent response. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you
We
very much.
appreciate your interest.
Thank you, Stacy. And you're welcome to stay if you'd like.
Yeah,
It's up to you.
Yeah, it's
Who's next?
Jeffrey Robinson. Go ahead and go right up there to our little podium, if you would, please. Just, Mr. Robinson, just introduce yourself real quickly, and then we'll hit you with a handful of questions?
Jeff Robertson, you want me to say anything about myself or?
Sure.
Oh, I bought in Murphy's in 2007 and worked for the Foreign Service at that time in various embassies around the world and of course, Washington DC. I've done some very interesting things along the way. Of course, in Washington DC, I had to go to the Hill, so to speak, and work with senior Senate staffers on a lot of programs, especially for the ones where I worked for the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs. I retired in 2018, lived full-time in the property we bought in 2007 in Murphy's. I've been involved in numerous things in the community and continue to get more so. If I look to see what kind of value I could bring to the board.
Well, we are going to ask that question.
You're gonna ask that? Okay.
No, well, some of it over there, some of them go back and forth. So I think that's probably adequate. We appreciate that. The first question is, what motivated you to apply for this position?
Well, Director Thomas made a plea to our Rotary Club meeting, and I got to thinking that I didn't really know much about that. You know, like most citizens, when you think about something like the water district, you really think about water when you don't have it, or when you have to pay a lot of money for it. I am on a well, so I'm not actually a customer, but I look at water, you know, some of the videos I looked at over this last week, you know, water is the new gold or Bitcoin or something along those lines. It really is a precious resource. I am deeply impressed with, you know, we're all standing on the shoulders of the men and women before us who secured these water rights for us at the water behind Spicer. And
Absolutely.
it just seemed like a really good fit for my skills, my interests, the time, like that.
All right. Well, this is kind of the same question, but why are you the best candidate for the position? Please speak to your relevant experience, which you've done a little bit of, understanding of CCWD and its District 3, and anything else the board should consider in making its decision.
Yeah, you know, it would actually help if I really knew more exactly what the board was looking for. But let me say this. When I was in graduate school, I wanted to become a specialist in something. And I thought I might become an economist because I really liked economics. And I looked around and there were some really brilliant people. They couldn't chew gum and tie their shoes at the same time, but they really could understand the deeper complexities of economics. And I see myself as smart, but not brilliant. And then I read a quote by a man named Stuart Brand, who was a scenario planner. And he said, a generalist is a specialist in the surface of things. And it changed how I look at myself. I all of a sudden felt really, because I've got a broad line knowledge. I understand budgets. I have worked as a public diplomacy officer. So on behalf of the United States, I talk about what a great country we are. I've interacted on some very difficult programs in both Iraq and Afghanistan. I like people. I think I work well. I think my personality is such that, you know, I feel like a real team player. And having watched the board last week, how it works, how the interpersonal skills are with one another, I think I would be a good fit for that.
All right, great. Okay, number 3, what do you believe the most important issues currently facing the district, and how would you work to address them if appointed to the board?
Small problems like Copper Cove and Jenny Lynn, are the things that you really have addressed and are continuing to address. The bigger one, to be quite honest, I don't know that much about it. My sense is the 2032 agreement that has to be renegotiated with what is it, NCPA, I believe.
You're right.
Got a lot of new acronyms to
Yeah,
learn.
no, I understand.
And there's not a lot on the web, but that struck me as being extremely important and something that needs to start now. So I have a policy background. I don't know what my role would be, but that strikes me for the board as the big overriding one. But the day-to-day responsibilities for ensuring water and sewage are delivered in a cost-effective manner to people, that would be kind of on the immediate agenda. Something for now and something big to work on later.
Okay, great. Hey, what is your review of the role and responsibilities of a successful public agency board member?
Okay, I've served on a couple of boards. I also was what you call a senior foreign service officer. And one of the tougher lessons I learned along my way up was that you can't be down in the weeds. That's Mr. Meekler's job, to really run the day-to-day. That it's the broad vision, the checking in, the providing the support, providing any kind of change in vision. And so it's really understanding the problems, preparing for the future, and dealing with day-to-day things that get bumped up to the board.
Okay. And then we had the public that came up with another question, and then,
I have a question.
oh, I think we're gonna go through the whole 5 first. Trying to stick with your order.
Okay.
Can't detract me. I'll try to get this through, and Francisco, this was from the public, and we kind of want everybody to answer the 5 similar questions, but we adopted a 5-year rate plan, and currently looking at some of our financial review, may or may not be showing that we're perhaps doing better than we anticipated, which would be great. The board has the ability at any time to reduce the rates that we had set according to Prop 218. Those are the maximum, not a minimum. And so I guess the question was, if our financing was in a positive state, would you support what he calls a pause, or basically it could be a reduction, or for that matter, it could be eliminating the next step of the rate increase. Is that close enough?
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just looking at.
No, I was talking about Francisco.
That's a very complex question, actually. So if customers are happy and not strongly objecting to current rates, that allows you to put money aside for capital improvements, which are, you can never have enough money to do everything that would be good to do. If it was a really important issue and we didn't have the uncertainty of our weather, where we've had, I guess I'd be more inclined to keep it unless there was such public pressure to reduce rates. It became public knowledge that this money wasn't exactly needed immediately, and that rates could either not raise or remain, or actually something be returned. I guess that's the difference. It's not going to cause a problem. Really needed for capital improvements, I would keep the excess. And if it was really, it looks like in my reading at one point this did become a problem, because I read a grand jury report about some recommendations to the board. I like the responses, by the way. But I'm running on a bit. I'll stop with that. Keep it if it's really needed and can be useful for the long-term benefit of all. And if it's really excess, then I would return it.
Okay, great. Is there any other follow-up from the board?
I do.
Go ahead, Scott.
In your, Jeff, in your introduction, in your telling us who you are, when you first came up, you said you're involved with other local entities. And I know obviously that you go to Rotary meetings. What other local involvement are you in? Are you involved with?
I was a director of the Calaveras County Mentoring Foundations. Due to some onerous California laws that have been implemented, CCWD, the Office of the Calaveras County Office of Education, actually shut down the program. It's a wonderful program. We, within the county, served over 118 mentees, and for the end, we got the mentees came. There was this teary event that night of all the great things that have happened. Really sad to see that go. I enjoyed that work, but it turns out law requires a kind of insurance that if the mentoring program continued, the Office of Education could no longer support us with office support and some staff that was essential. So that ended. I am currently a director on Habitat for Humanity, and having been a general contractor at one point in life and having a light construction development management certificate from UCI, they put me on a subcommittee as well as the board for developing 108 units that I don't know if you're aware of it. We're building 108 units in Angels Camp, which will be low income housing for people like nurses, teachers, not for homeless. It's a wonderful development. I'm really glad to be part of that. I've been involved with Rotary really almost a few months with scholarships. I also am, my wife and I are guardians of a 9-year-old and 11-year-old, so I've been involved with the Albert Michelson School. There's various other little things I do.
Thank you.
Cindy, do you have any?
I'm good.
Russ?
As Mr. Robertson mentioned, I took it upon myself to go pass out the vacancy announcements at the Rotary Club, thinking that that would be a pretty fertile ground to plow for people that are motivated to do service above self, like the Rotarians are prone to do. Anyway, I'm glad that you responded. That's good stuff.
Took it to heart. I thank you for that. This is not something I would have thought of. I guess there's one other thing I'd like to say. I mean, I know how long it took me to really become a good director for mentoring. I have a lot to learn for Habitat. And I know it would take me a while to become, generally, I think I could start right away and add some value. It takes time, and I wouldn't look at this as just a year and a half. I would run for election. And I would look at this at least a full term and a year and a half commitment to the board.
Okay, fantastic. Anything
Very good.
else?
You said you did?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else from the public? Thank you very much. I appreciate it. That was very, very impressive. Thank you. You're welcome to stay and sit, and it's really just the preceding thing that we're trying to be fair about. All right, where are we at? Andrew, how do I pronounce your last name? Kearns, okay. Thank you for being here. You want to just introduce yourself real quick, and then I'll hit you with 4 or 5 questions?
Sure. My name is Andrew Kearns. I live in East California. Before we get too far down the road, I wanted to say thanks for the opportunity to present myself. I also wanted to say thank you for your commitment to service, especially Growth on Your Hills. And when I read the grand jury report, I thought, oh no, what am I getting myself into? But I read the October 2024 reply, and I really appreciate your clarity on that. It really gave the whole good full picture, and it was a nice fulsome rebuttal, and it was also a wholesale acknowledgement and ownership, and that's the kind of board that I expect to see run this place. So deep gratitude for that. Thank you.
All right. Okay, number 1, what motivated you to apply for this position other than Director Thomas begging?
Begging? Yeah.
You made a plea because
Yeah.
the board was left in the lurch. I understand.
Yeah, that's right.
My general approach to things is fairly a bit of overkill. I read the FERC 2409 project, the North Fork, and I just became fascinated with the topic. As I mentioned in the letter, I read the grand jury's report. I also read the strategic plan that you've outlined. As I looked into it even more, I ended up reading the 1983 lawsuit that kind of settled the Friends of the River. And as I dug into that, I noticed that there's a renewal license coming up in 2032. I thought, oh, there's no big deal. That's years away. I understand that you have to have a notice of intent 5 years before that. And you have to have a PAD a year before that. And I looked at this multi-million-dollar deal. It's just a captivating interest to me. I think
It is a big deal. You're right.
The cheapest deal I think I've seen provided in this county, that NCPA, CCWD relationship that has to be either renewed or modified or obviously decided upon. This is the kind of topic that I tend to, it makes sense to overkill. And I actually like to kind of dig in and get all the information. I graduated from the University of California, Santa Barbara in 1985. For the last 40 years, I've been mostly involved with business development, sales in a bunch of different industries, semiconductor, medical devices. Right now, I'm working for an attorney who specializes in, he's a patent attorney that specializes in artificial intelligence. You'll notice that I did not say that my resume is full of a lot of water experience, but in each of these industries, I've had to dig in, learning medical device material for cardiovascular applications, orthopedic implants, selling stainless steel up to the Pacific National Lab up in Richland, Washington, when they're designing hydrogen fuel cells. These are all above my pay grade. But I dig in and I trust the experts so that I can say something competently to move the process forward. That's a very short sketch of my background since 1985.
Okay. That was just number one, right? Well, they overlap a little bit, so I'm gonna basically ask you the same question, but longer. Why are you the best candidate for the position? Please speak of your relevant experience, understanding of CCWD and District 3, and anything else the board should consider in making its decision.
Sure. Excellent question. District 3 is the largest CCWD's district. So obviously that has a little bit more of a responsibility as far as being able to get back to a constituents, a larger number of constituents. I know a little bit about CCWD, just, thousands of square miles, well, more than 1,000 square miles of service area, thousands and thousands of customers, both residential, municipal, industrial. I know that the board is in charge of governing that operation. The general manager will do the day-to-day, but the board is in charge of overseeing that. I can imagine that when you get a grand jury report, it's a little bit of a shock. And the effort is to get back to the general manager to make sure that that gets put to bed. Other than that, I don't have, as I mentioned, a lot of experience with water. However, I wouldn't say that the problem facing CCWD, certainly not the board, is a lack of water knowledge. It seems to me that there's a great need to be able to dig into a very, very complicated issue, parse it out, and make sure that the relationships are in order to move something forward that's going to have, this thing started, 40, 50 years ago. It's going to have that kind of lifetime after it. And that long-term view, very tempered, dare I say, reasonable outlook is what's going to be sustainable. I would trust the experts for digging an 8.3 mile tunnel through the earth and making an 18-foot pipe. The experts are going to handle that just fine. And I'm sure the experts will be able to handle the NCPA CCWD agreement just fine. I'd like to lend a hand at doing that.
Okay. All right. Number 3, what do you believe are the most important issues currently facing the district, and how would you work to address them if appointed to the board?
Number one is, well, I have an appreciation for the public commentary, and I would expect maybe a question on that. Why are my rates going up? That's obviously a big issue for constituents here. Outside of that, I would say the number one issue is FERC 2409. That's obviously the biggest issue that's facing, the amount of planning that has to happen. In fact, I came across a quote from one of the papers that I read from 1983. It's by a guy from the University of Washington, The Path Along the Ridge. It's about regional planning in the face of uncertainty. And he said there's no facts about the future. Predicting energy demand is an uncertain and risky enterprise. That's probably the biggest issue that's facing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, what is your view of the role and responsibilities of a successful public agency board member?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of that.
What is your view? I'm sorry, what is your view of the role and responsibilities of a successful public agency board member?
I would say number one is the ability to come back to the constituency and explain why decisions are being made. even I would try to get ahead of any of the train wrecks if rates are going up. Back in 1983, I think it was about 2 years ago, there was a great presentation at the Ironstone Vineyards on water is gold. And I'd never had an appreciation for water flowing down from the snow into my tap. That ability to get back to the community and make them understand that, look, these things take 40, 50 years to put together. They last for 40 or 50 years. I'm very unlikely to be here and then, but explaining the policy, why your kids and your grandkids are going to have water because of the decisions that are made today. These investments need to be made today. So clearly being able to go back to the public and explain the position taken. Being able to work collaboratively, being assigned a task and actually finishing it on time with the detail that's required. Budget oversight, obviously have to be able to dig in. I've read the NCPA's financial statements and I've never read a public agency that has to qualify or work underneath FERC's accounting. I'd never dug into that, but if I was assigned to a finance committee, for instance, I would definitely put it upon myself to make sure that I understood that to the best of my ability and ask the right questions.
Okay. And then the last one was from a member of the public. Knowing that we recently adopted a 5-year rate plan, which has the ability, it sets a high point for proposed rate increases, but the board can reduce them at at individual times if they please. They just can't raise them. If our financial status had improved, would you consider either pausing or reducing one of the scheduled rate increases?
Another fair question. I'm quite honestly, I'm not qualified to answer it. If I took a nice political view, I'd make sure that I heard from both sides. I did appreciate the grand jury reply that the board gave justifying those rate increases. It seemed to make a lot of sense. On the front end, it looks like a lot of arm waving of, oh no, my rates are going up. So there is a balance there. But as I stand here today, I wouldn't be qualified to actually comment on that. First of all. Second of all, I live on a well. Third, I do understand that there is a tremendous financial impact. My wife is the director of behavioral health down at the Valley Springs Clinic, and she sees people that were adversely impacted by those rate increases. So you have to have a degree of sensitivity, empathy, diplomacy, tact, and really get out ahead of some of these decisions so that the public understands these investments are being made and why. And the proportionality of it makes sense to all of the stakeholders.
Okay. All right. Is there any follow-up from the board? Cindy, do you have any?
Do you sit on any boards now? I didn't notice that. Okay. Have you ever been on a board? Been a board member, director or anything?
Something more complicated than an HOA.
Well, they're pretty similar.
There's nothing, hey, there's nothing more complicated than an HOA,
Well,
Exactly.
except maybe Little League vice president or something like that.
a soccer coach with parents yelling at you might qualify, but no, I do not have any.
Okay.
Russ, do you have anything?
No, but I just want to verbalize again how thrilled I am that with the quality of applicants today, it's really pretty gratifying that we have a county that they can put forth this type of response, and thanks for being here.
Thank you. As we spoke outside while the first Bruce was taking his questions, we generally concluded the same. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
do you have any?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Where's the instructions? All right. Okay, so I wanted to ask the board, I mean, we've just met 4 people. I think all 4 are qualified at least to sit in my seat. I don't think there's any question of that. I'm actually delighted with the quality of all 4 of you and thankful. You guys have been told how much it pays, right? Yeah, it doesn't. But anyway, we got some steps here. I mean, if the board wants to give this more thought, I mean, I am fine to postpone this until Cindy gets back at the end of May. But if the board wants to move forward, this would be the time to make a nomination. The way it'll work is we will have nominations until somebody makes a motion and there's a second to close nominations. So there could be multiple nominations. So I guess at this point, I'm just asking, what's the will of the board? Want to be able to think about this for? When are you
It's a
coming back?
hard decision.
Well, I mean, it's
You
just,
know,
I
because it's
feel,
like every one of you should be able to sit up in here. And, if somebody made a nomination or something, I would probably be able to make a decision, with that.
I'd like to give a little background to all of you. That there's a couple of us sitting here that arrived on this board through the same process. I was the most recent one 8 years ago. And like today, there were a lot of highly qualified people. And I made a comment at a recent meeting that, if I hadn't been selected, there would have been a very adequate replacement or substitution for me. And what did you say about that?
pardon me?
What did you say about that?
I wasn't listening to you.
Oh,
I'll say what you would ordinarily say. It's too bad we didn't choose one or the other.
Yeah.
no, what he said was that the jury is still out on that decision. So
Still is, yeah.
still is. So, but I meant that very sincerely, that there were some people that, I, like many of you, I had what I thought was some pretty good background, and so I put myself forward. But man, oh man, there were people that I would have voted for.
I was elected.
Yeah, you were elected, but Scott Rediman came to this board in very much the same way, and I don't know. I think that it's been a very enjoyable opportunity for me, and I'm sure that whoever we select here, you'll feel the same way. And if you don't make the cut, it's not it's not because that you're not qualified. It's just we have to kind of titrate it down to one. So
Just move down to Copperopolis and pretty soon.
yeah. Yeah, but you're whoever gets it, when we make that decision, there's 4 people making that decision. However, when you run for reelection, there'll be about 8,000 people that are registered to vote.
Yeah, that's kind of important. Maybe everybody doesn't know what our options are here. I mean, we have 65 days from Bertha's resignation, which I believe was effective yesterday, to make a decision. If we can't make a decision, if we're, stuck between 2 candidates, then the Board of Supervisors can make a decision, and they could do it completely different. They could take a whole new group of people, do whatever the heck they wanted. The other option is to hold a special election, which could be $100,000 if it's independent. So that's the only reason we're doing this. I mean, the preference would be to have all 4 of you candidates running the campaign, up in the Ebbets Pass area, and let the public decide that. And I hope that's what happens, in a year and a half. So with that, what's the will of the board? Do we want
Well,
to?
I got a comment before we actually
Okay,
go there. And I think the next step would be for you opening nominations and if you so choose to do so. But I was appointed as well, and I'm going to say the same thing about that Russ Thomas said. I was appointed in 2011. And the other candidates I thought I know they were way more qualified in water and wastewater than I was. But what I've learned in the preceding years is a lot about water and wastewater. But the other candidates that were scratching my head at the end of that meeting, and after I took my seat, as to why I got the nod ahead of some very qualified people. And today we do have 4. What I'm going to say, I agree with the rest of the board. Very, very qualified, and this is going to be a tough decision. It is a tough decision.
Okay, so is the will of the board for me to open nominations?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I will open nominations, and once again, we can have multiple. If we have a motion for a nomination, it does not have to be seconded, but the motion to close the nominations has to be seconded. So is there a motion?
Yeah, I would like to nominate Jeffrey Robertson.
Okay, are there any other motions to be made? Nominations, I'm sorry. Is there a motion to close the nomination?
I'd like to make a nomination for Andrew Cairns.
All right, we're putting it out there.
Huh?
There's one candidate that said one thing that stands out to me. And can I tell you what that was, or just nominate the person?
Just, you can do whatever you want.
Okay.
You always do.
So what I heard one person say was they wanted to be like Bertha out in the community. And that was really important to me. And that was Stacy. So I would nominate Stacy. I mean, they are all so good, but because that's the only one that I heard say wanting to be in the community, and I'm sure they all would, but that's it. So if we have those on there, do we have a second? I mean, and I'm,
There is no second for the nominations.
I'm going to make a motion to close the nominations.
So we have 3 nominations. Correct?
Yes.
And we're gonna take them in the order of.
We do need a second.
I know we have to have a second to close the nomination. So yeah, I want to be clear, and we have 3 candidates. So we have a motion to close the nominations. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All right. So I suppose we have to, I'm gonna go name by name and we'll poll the board.
You will take a vote on the nominations.
And if we do not get a majority, then we will go another round.
Yes, so you will take the nominations in order they were received. You will call for a vote. If the first person gets 3 votes, they get the spot. If they don't, then you keep going down. And then if you don't get any, then you continue the meeting,
Okay,
the agenda item.
Do we have to have a vote on that second to close the?
we already did, I think. Didn't we get a second to close the nomination?
Yeah, but no vote on it. No polling or anything.
He's asking, do we need to vote on that motion second?
Oh, yeah, probably so.
Yes,
Okay. On the motion to close the nominations, please pull the board.
Director Adderman,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
Director Cicada.
yes.
And President Davidson.
Yes. Now, is it appropriate just to go through this, or is it now a time where, if you want to pitch your candidate?
Person,
it's, you have had a discussion, you can have a discussion if you want, or you can call for the vote. It's up to,
I
You
would
as the
like to
president.
hear some other reasons why you folks chose who you chose, because maybe you convinced me to go your direction.
Well, I have not told you who I chose right now, but I'd be happy to tell you that, I mean, again, all fine candidates, all qualified to sit in any one of these seats. But I really think that Jeffrey Robinson was a better, more qualified candidate. Unfortunately, only one of the candidates, in my mind, I mean, I can't really say that. I just think that he stood out. I like his background. I mean, I've built houses for Habitat for Humanity. He's obviously a good man. He's raising, some children here. He just seems to me to be you all have outstanding character, but it just, I mean, from reading 2 pages and listening to a guy talk for 15 minutes, I don't know, I've ever been more impressed in my life.
Right.
And I think, I don't want anybody smarter than me on the board, but
But that might happen.
yeah, all 4, any of the 4.
That's already happened.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my pitch. I've met Stacy, I believe, over there, but as far as the others, I don't think I've met them ever. So I was thoroughly impressed.
Well, with my decision, it was like, it's so hard to choose. That was the only thing that I noticed that stood out. So that's,
I will
Was the
say
reason
this
for that?
this one thing. My thought on Stacy in particular is so much of what we have ahead of us is North Fork related. And I mean, this is a question for Matt, but he did bring that up. I just wonder the level of discussion she'll be able to have. I mean, I'm asking that question, but that's the only concern I have about her candidacy.
So obviously, we'd have to take each item as it came, but as we know, Utica does have a role in that or is impacted by that. So there would be potential issues that we'd have to look at. I can't say yet because I haven't fully analyzed it, but there would be issues where she may need to recuse herself.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just my only, I mean,
And you know, that could be a huge, if she can't.
it's the
vote
most
on
important
some
thing.
of
And
these
I was so
things,
happy to have
I
so
agree.
all these candidates bring that to the top of the list. I mean, you know, a couple of them really did a good job researching it and you know, that's what even this board is still, you know, probably behind the eight ball on educating ourselves on how complex it's going to be. So I you know, that's my 2 cents.
Okay.
And that's
How
where my
about you,
vote, that's where
Scott?
my first vote will go.
Okay. Scott, what about you in choosing?
Yeah, again, very, very good candidates, all four of you. I think it's very, very difficult and it might have been, just the fact that Andrew was the last one, interviewed that some of the answers stood out a little bit more, obviously very,
No, he's
very
good.
smart, but, I was also impressed in the research that he did and looking through and knowing a lot about our North Fork project, our strategic plan, our new strategic plan, and a few other things, including this grand jury report, which others also commented on. That's that was my reasoning of my nomination.
All right.
Well, I can maybe resolve this right away. What you said about Stacy made sense, that I think it could be an issue with her being able to vote on some things. So, I could agree with you folks to go with Jeffrey. So
Well,
that's our three or
We just have to have a show of hands.
No, we'll
is there anything
we'll vote.
more?
The way it'll go is, if the board is, finished discussing this, we will go through in order and whoever gets the three.
Okay.
And if we can't decide here today, then we'll postpone it, till May and do a little more research. But can the board at this time just say, no more new applicants? I think we're good on our applicants. Can we do that?
Deadline's passed.
Huh?
The deadline's passed.
I think we can.
Oh, is that?
If you don't come to nobody gets 3 votes, then you could make a decision that you want to reopen it, or you can make a decision you're not going to reopen it. The board can make that decision, yes.
Well, we could change our mind later if
Yeah.
we still stayed 2-2 the whole
Yes.
time. Okay. Well, my point is, I just don't think it's fair to seek any new candidates until we've exhausted the ones that we have here, because they're all qualified. Does that sound good to everybody?
Exactly.
All right. Okay,
One other question though, since I agree with you, should I pull my nomination for Stacy? Because I think that could be a problem, or does it matter?
Let's just go through the
it doesn't
process.
matter. Let's just,
Okay,
come on, man.
okay.
Well, we'll see. I mean, but, so with that, we'll close all the nominations are closed. We're gonna take them in order with Jeffrey Robinson being the first nominated. Stacy, please call the roll. Stacy, that's how it's Stacy.
Kate.
Sorry.
Director
I'm
Ratterman,
like, what?
I don't know why.
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Are we raising our hands?
Wait, and who is this for?
Jeff Robinson.
Oh, okay,
Director Thomas,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
yes.
and President Davidson.
Yes. All right. Again, we want to thank you all. We appreciate it. It's a tough decision, to sit here in front of, 4 fine people and pick one of you. But, hey, it's coming up in a year and a half. Get your signs ready. With that, what do we do now?
Well, you could, Kate can swear in the new board member. You just
Well, can we take a 5-minute break and thank the candidates? What's that?
Yes, you know what? He's gonna hold his feet. He's gonna, Jeffrey's gonna hold Michael's feet to the fire pretty hard. You know, with all that political knowledge and stuff like that, you know, I think that to me was the main thing that could make.
Yeah, no,
Good.
that's a big part of it too. I would have brought
Yeah.
that.
That was easy, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I could have been obstinate, you know, and Jeffrey changed that.
Okay, we'll come back into, open session. And now the board secretary will administer the oath of office to the newly appointed director. And then we'll have the blood initiation and all that stuff.
Do we have to do that here today?
Okay. I, Jeffrey Robertson, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
I, Jeffrey Robertson, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
That's it?
Good.
Yeah.
Take a seat.
That's yours over there. Oh, wait, can we have musical chairs now?
Yeah. And the knife ready.
Constitution, Peace Corps volunteer, Peace Corps director.
I thought maybe you wouldn't have to look at the paperwork. He's left-handed. Anybody else left-handed here? You? Ooh, they're smart. Southpaw.
She stuck it in her drawer for the next guy.
Do you go by Jeff or Jeffrey?
Jeff.
Jeff.
Yeah, I come up with a nickname of some sort.
President Davidson wants me to go by something.
Jeff is
We'll
good.
figure something out.
All right.
Because we have Jeffrey in finance.
Yeah, we got a lot of Jeffs, a lot of Jeffs.
Oh, that's,
We
I
got
didn't think of that one.
Another Jeff's left the ring.
It's a great name for the water district.
Okay, where are we at here now?
4. Board reports, information, future agenda.
Okay,
items.
3B we did.
Yep.
Board reports, information, future agenda items. Director Skata.
Yeah, so I will be filling in for you on the engineering committee. I will be here for the May 7th, I believe it is, right? And then let me just look at my calendar. So we have on the 7th, we're not doing one on the 14th, is that correct?
That's
And then the next one would be the 28th then? I should be back for that one on the 28th. That's it.
Okay, Director Thomas.
Traveling.
Okay, I want to remind you that I will be gone for the meeting on the 7th. And I will be back for the meeting on the 28th. And I also will be attending the Aqua Conference. in Monterey.
Rick Redmond?
No, the only thing I have to report is that I will be attending the Aqua Conference, as well.
Okay. Richter Robertson.
I will be in Spain on May 7th, but I will be back for the May 28th meeting.
Okay. I was curious, it's probably too late to get him to Aqua.
Well, we're gonna look into that if he's
Do you understand what
available.
the Aqua conference is? Aqua is the statewide, lobbyist, what do you call them?
The Association of California Water Agencies is the member industry group made up of the majority of the the water agencies in California, largely focused on policy advocacy, but a lot of educational opportunities as well. And so we encourage board members to participate in those events.
And the date?
The upcoming conference is the week of May 12th, I believe
12th
it
to
is.
the 15th.
Yeah, I'm away for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Saturday, so I would miss that.
Fall conference.
Yeah, they do conferences twice a year, but there's also California Special Districts Association. We'll give you a lot of resources and try
There's a
to
good-
get you up to speed as soon as
I
possible.
don't know how much we can talk about it right now. I'll just,
ACWA, CSD.
Jeff, should you put them on any committees that Bertha was on?
I'll have to agendize that. Yeah.
Oh,
I'll figure it out.
To big resource of education. And so that they teach how to turn.
Yeah, we have all right, good. We have an onboarding process. We'll start to meet with you to work with you on particular issues, but also just board member business in general. So we're not going to leave you unprepared.
Okay, thank you. No, I'd be very interested in attending conferences and I'm usually can make my schedule free up, but
Great.
I'm not going to give up Spain.
That's pretty short notice. Yeah.
don't blame you. All right, I really have not much to add other than to, take advantage of those opportunities, particularly the new board member, that if you haven't been on a board like ours, we are governed pretty strictly, with Brown Act and things of that nature. And just, the roles of a board member, I think, you answered, I think you get the role of a board member is, not to get, too distracted with what's going on. It's policy driven but take advantage of those opportunities because they'll be helpful.
Well,
Make it a lot easier. All right, so that's all I have to add, I suppose. Our next board meeting is May 7th. And then May 28th will be our other board meeting in May. And we're going to adjourn into closed session, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation. Is there any public comment on closed session? Okay, seeing none, we will adjourn into closed session.